Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is, if you don't know, if I haven't met you, my name is Gabe Zorhide, and I'm the executive director. I feel like I'm staring over everyone. We're just going to have a few words, a few appreciations, a couple gifts. It's not very often that we get to celebrate our 20th. Once in our lifetime, and in this case, we're very lucky that we get to acknowledge and celebrate Willing Hands 20th. I have to say, as we were discussing this event, we talked a lot about, do you celebrate in our line of work? Is this a celebration? Is it an acknowledgement? What is our intention here? As you all know, our organization is focused on food insecurity, it's focused on reducing food waste. And in many ways, and I know from other parts of the world, the fact that this kind of work exists is seen as something that we shouldn't necessarily as a society be proud of. We wish there wasn't a need for the work that we do. And so celebrating celebrating like you might celebrate a birthday, it doesn't quite fit right with me. So how I've been thinking about it really though is it's celebrating the individuals, celebrating the community members, celebrating the volunteers who have poured themselves into this organization over the years. And so many of them are here, of you all are here, and it's just, that's the part that's really a pleasure and it's a treat to be part of it. We have a couple folks who we want to celebrate, who are going to come up here. I'm going to just share a few words about myself and what brought me to this organization. I first heard about Willing Hands, I think it was the fall of 2004, so 20 years ago. I was a couple years out of college working for Vital Communities, and upstairs in the train station, I remember this very tall gentleman who described himself as a blueberry farmer was coming in and talking to my boss and I about this idea of Willing Hands and see if Vital Communities could help support it. And his name was Jack Lyons. And it says, wow, that's a fascinating idea. That's a great thing. Vital Communities, at that point we weren't looking at taking it on. I'm not sure if Jack exactly wanted us to, but I think that he certainly probably would have said yes if we did. And it's really neat for me to think back to that point, almost, that probably was almost 20 years ago exactly for me. My sort of second moment in time that connected me to Willing Hands was, of course, when I applied to be an executive director, taking over from Heather, who is here. And that was about, sorry, Heather. That was a little bit over 9 years ago in 2015. And at that time, I was thinking about today, and when I met Jack was I think trying to figure out if he really wanted to be a blueberry farmer. And if you know Jack, he was a surgeon, a retired surgeon, but I think at that point he was really wanting to sell himself as a blueberry farmer, raspberry farmer. And when I applied at Willing Hands, part of my motivation was I probably wasn't going to be a successful livestock farmer. And at that point I knew it, and that my nonprofit career, which I was on not a hiatus from, but I'd left Vital Communities and was working part-time at another nonprofit. I realized I probably needed a full-time job, and farming wasn't going to be my professional career. And so that's what brought me back to Willing Hands as well. And it's just been a true pleasure to be part of this organization for the last 9 years. I want to just quickly thank the staff who put this together, and the volunteers and committee members, and Jill Marshall, who's here, and who really helped. She didn't want to be acknowledged, but she did so much in helping us get this off the ground, as well as the committee of Stacy, Carolyn, Janet, and then Anna, who is jumped into the frying pan. She started in August, and I think I waited 10 days before I told her about this event. And I felt a little guilty, but I was like, I got to give her a couple days before she knows that she has to help me with this. But she's been fabulous, and I really appreciate everyone who's been able to help us get this off the ground, and all the other stuff we're trying to do to acknowledge and celebrate the work that's gone into this organization over the last 20 years. I want to make sure I don't speak too long. It's cold. Of course, we haven't got the greatest luck. It's been a beautiful fall, but of course, the coldest day yet. We have to have this event, so I'm sorry for that. But thank you for Casey and his crew and the pizza. Maybe it's a little warmer over there. First, I wanted to bring. First, I wanted to bring up Peter Carter. So when I was hired in 2015, Peter was the vice president of the board and was really a part of the hiring process. Quickly came on as the president in the next probably 18 months or so, taking over from Jack, who had been the president for 10 years at that point. And it was just a pleasure to work with Peter for 8 years as the board chair and president until Leslie Rimmer took over for him just maybe 18 months ago, I think it was, or 2 years ago. So Peter's going to share a little bit about the organization, some appreciations, and we'll go from there.
Well, welcome. Welcome to you all. I'm Peter Carter, a former board member of Willing Hands, here to speak about the original conception.
You have to go a little closer.
Can you drop it a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, is that a little better? All right. Anyways, I'm here to speak about the original conception, birth, and evolution of Willing Hands, starting back 20 years ago. At that time, Peter Phippen was worked at the Hanover Co-op food store and was distressed at the amount of produce that was being thrown into the dumpster as new products came into the store. Fortuitously, he struck up a conversation with Jack Lyons in the bulk food aisle, whose deep concerns and positive contributions to humanity have ranged from the U.S. to Guatemala and elsewhere. Jack and Peter immediately formulated a plan to redirect this nutritious food away from the dumpster and onto the tables of needy families in the Upper Valley. Peter went to the co-op management and asked how much they were spending on dumpster fees every month. The amount was $500 per month. So Peter proposed that the co-op pay him that $500 and that he would use that money to distribute those good and nutritious fruits and vegetables to needy families in the Upper Valley. And thus was Willing Hand born. And thus did a fabulous relationship with the co-op begin, which has continued all these 20 years. The co-op continues to this day to provide both produce and funding to help Willing Hands meet its mission. Jack Lyons was on the founding board of Willing Hands and was instrumental in keeping the fledgling organization afloat with his own money, time, energy, and his unique ability to captivate and enthuse volunteers with a mission. Jack seemed to have endless contacts in the Upper Valley who were more than willing to help him realize his and Peter Phippen's dream. Jack was the first board chair of Willing Hands, and he guided the organization in chair and leading ambassador for over 10 years. Jack, along with his devoted wife, Terry, grew Willing Hands from a back of the pickup truck operation to the flourishing organization that it is today. They were never daunted by the lack of funding, van breakdowns, and numerous challenges in those early years that would have sunk most organizations that did not have Jack and Terry's brilliant optimism and kindness, and Jack's willingness to get his surgeon hands dirty. Additionally, Terry started and ran the Willing Hands Nutrition Education Program, teaching food recipients recipes for nutritious foods and vegetables with which they might not previously have been familiar. In honor of the Lyons family, the Board of Directors of Willing Hands has created a board-designated fund called the Sunny Fields Fund. Prior to Willing Hands, Jack had bought a 10-plus acre property in Thetford near Cedar Circle Farm, which he named the Sunny Fields Berry Farm, where he planted, as Gabe said, blueberries and raspberries to become a berry farmer. When the opportunity for Willing Hands came along, however, and with assistance of Cedar Circle, 2 acres of that farm subsequently became the first Willing Hands organic vegetable garden. Thus began a long-term relationship with Cedar Circle and other local farms, which has grown into collaborations with 45 contributing farms and orchards and a total of 76 food donors to Willing Hands. Willing Hands now manages 4 vegetable gardens, including the one here at 198 Church Street, which together are projected to generate between 18 to 19 tons of healthy organic vegetables this year. Through the generosity of the Lyons family and countless Upper Valley contributors during our capital campaign, the Sunny Fields Fund, named in honor of Jack and Terry, now ensures the long-term viability of Willing Hands. Jack and Terry's optimism, kindness, generosity, and love of community are inspiration to us all. Sadly, Jack passed away earlier this year at the age of 96, but his legacy lives on here at Willing Hands. Reminiscing about the early years of Willing Hands, however, should not ignore some other people who were instrumental in the organization's survival and success. First is Mark Landsberg, who started as one of the daily delivery van drivers and then took over the responsibility of all the food deliveries after Peter Phippin's departure, while also serving for 4 years on the board. Mark's enthusiastic dedication, without Mark's enthusiastic dedication, I do not believe that Willing Hands would exist today. Second is Heather Bagley, who was noted back there, who served as the first executive director from 2007 to 2015. Although only being paid a part-time salary, Heather single-handedly managed to organize all of the food procurement, gleaning, delivery scheduling, van maintenance, fundraising, and numerous other chores to keep nutritious food flowing into the community, all with no staff other than the delivery drivers and the assistance of a very hands-on Willing Hands board. Until 2009, Willing Hands had no permanent storage facility or even a garage for the truck, for the van. When I joined the board, all food was stored in the company van, which was parked overnight at the Haven, and all of each day's perishable food had to be delivered throughout the community the following day before it spoiled. I had the honor of serving on the Willing Hands board for 15 years. During that time, the most important action we took as a board was to hire Gabe Zorhide as the second executive director in 2015. When Gabe started work, Willing Hands had a single van, and our sole storage facility was a shed on the Van Armen farm in Norwich that was barely big enough to fit the van. Refrigeration was limited to an in-the-window air conditioning unit and then upgraded marginally to a cool bot. With Gabe's guidance and determination, The organization now has fabulous headquarters, as you've seen today here, state-of-the-art refrigerated storage lockers, amazing staff, vehicles, numerous vehicles, including a new electric delivery van, all of which seemed unimaginable prior to Gabe's ascension to the executive director job. During Gabe's incumbency, food deliveries have quadrupled to a little under 1 million pounds per year. In addition, Gabe, along with yeoman assistance from a number of incredible and dedicated members of the Willing Hands board, spearheaded our very successful capital campaign, which enabled us to expand our operation, to build all of this facility, and to create the Sunnyfield Fund, where Jack birthed and then frequently resuscitated Willing Hands through its difficult adolescent years. Gabe has brought it into full and impressive adulthood. A final action of which I'm personally proud was encouraging Carolyn Fry to join the Willing Hands board. Where she served compassionately and dedicatedly for 13 years. Through the efforts and commitment of Carolyn and her husband Milt, the gleaning program has grown from 10,000 pounds per year when Carolyn became the gleaning coordinator to over 53,000 pounds currently, a 5-fold increase. Thank you, Carolyn and Milt, for your incredible work that has helped Willing Hands grow to the level that it is today. In closing, I want to give a heartfelt thanks to Peter, Mark, Heather, Gabe, Carolyn, Milt, Terry, and Jack, and the numerous Willing Hands board members who have dedicated so much time and energy during the past 20 years to ensure our success. As a result of your foresight and dedication, and thanks to the contributions of hundreds of volunteers and donors, including many of you who are here today, we are now able to celebrate this 20th anniversary of this incredible organization, which has brought so much nourishment, health, and happiness to so many people here in the Upper Valley. Thank you.
One of these cutting boards and flowers is for him in appreciation of his long time service to the board. So make sure you take one before you go. Yes, yes. Thank you, Peter. That was wonderful. We're going to have just a couple more folks. We're one of the treats, really, through my tenure at Willing Hands is to be able to connect with Peter Phippen. Peter was obviously, as mentioned, one of the inspiration and the catalyst for this work when we were founded 20 years ago. And together with Jack and a lot of volunteers, made this organization's work possible. Over the past couple of years, Peter's been visiting us from time to time, and it's just really been a treat to be able to reconnect and connect with his passion that led to this organization's work. And so I want to invite him up to say a few words. We also have a cutting board and flowers for him as well. But it's not always as an organization who's 20 years old that you get to really connect with the folks who made it happen. So thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everyone. Wow. You know, I'm kind of speechless. This is really strange. But I just want to say, thank you, Peter, for all of your tireless work for Willing Hands. Gabe, everyone, there's a fire that gets lit, underneath us when we find out about a good idea, and what happened to me in the co-op was I saw that there was unnecessary waste happening, that we could do something about it. And what I'm really impressed with is just the number of people who just showed up to help with that effort. Everybody showed up. We'd go to the Riverfest. Everybody would help, raise awareness. Street Fest in Hanover. We'd show up and have our tabling events there. We'd be in front of the co-op food stores tabling to get the awareness levels up. The Willing Hands logo wasn't always the raised hands with the fruit and vegetables. It was originally a Maxfield Parish print that I got permission from the people at the Maxfield Parish Foundation down in Cornish. We had this little guy pushing a wheelbarrow out of a print that my dad saw. He was doing the tables, all the statistics and stuff for the early, Willing Hands program, trying to keep track of how much we were collecting and everything. But this was a cool local. It's not a local. Well, it's a local artist, but it was really cool for me to have a Maxfield Parish thing on the side of a '93 Plymouth Voyager van from Poverty Lane Orchards, whose cider is what we're drinking today. So we've come full circle, like somebody said earlier. Just wanted to say, this program actually grew out of, I was facilitating for a book group that met on Wednesday nights across the street from the co-op. I would go over and facilitate for that group, and I started to bring breads, like leftover Klinger's bread, and the fish department often had fish go out of date, and I might bring some produce and stuff. There was a homeless woman who showed up, and I started to bring food just because she was showing up. And the book group was called A Course in Miracles. So I was studying this book. I was feeling that this could just grow into something, and sure enough, through the efforts of so many who are still with us and some who aren't. And thank you, Jack. Thank you so much. God, he was just such an amazing man. We would sit we'd be on the bulk aisle, and he'd be fishing into the bulk traps along the top of the bins, eating and talking. And the first farm that actually participated in the collection of produce was Longland Farms. Grade C tomatoes, man. I packed my Honda Civic full of grade C tomatoes and get them around. So listen, this thing grew out of the grassroots of the Upper Valley, and everybody showed up, and I really appreciate everyone continuing to show up, because we have to have everyone supporting it. And you guys rock me. You rock my world, okay? So thank you so much, and thanks for giving me a minute to say. Appreciate it.
So just a couple more. One of the really the amazing things about how Willing Hands was able to be created is it took Peter's catalyst, it took Jack's willingness to jump in and ask for a lot of help and volunteers from a lot of people. Just as importantly, it took the co-op food stores and Terry Appleby to invest and to support this work. And I was really happy that Terry was able to join us today. And I'm also really happy to share that Amanda Charlin, who is the current general manager of the co-op food stores, is on our board and is here somewhere. There she is. And so we wanted to appreciate the co-op and appreciate Terry. I can share just a couple of pieces. So over our history, Willing Hands has grown, gleaned, recovered about 10 million pounds of food. More than 40% of that's come from the co-op. There was many years where it was 90% of the food was coming from the co-op. This is really an organization that grew out of the co-op, that grew in partnership with the co-op, that exists because of the co-op. And we have a really special relationship with the co-op. It's not just the food. We receive Pennies for Change support. In the early years, as Peter Carter mentioned, there was a really important monthly support check that came from the co-op, which was really because of that leadership from Terry. So, Amanda, if you want to come up and say a few words in appreciation, that would be wonderful.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Gabe said, I'm Amanda Charland. I'm the current general manager at the Co-op Food Stores and a board member here at Willing Hands. So it's a huge honor to be able to spend a few minutes just recognizing Terry and all of his work and helping get Willing Hands off the ground. I think Terry hired me about 13 years ago as the sustainability coordinator, and I've had a chance to work with him for many years. And to this day, I'm still incredibly inspired by all of his work and value systems that he instilled in me. I think Willing Hands and how it got started is a really incredible example of the kind of values that Terry brought every day. He was really focused on community. He was very community-minded, committing to doing the right thing, even when it wasn't easy, and making investments that other people may not have made, especially like other grocery businesses. So to give you just a quick glimpse of what this looks like behind the scenes at the Co-op Food Stores, it's actually a lot of work for our staff to get the food off the shelf. We're sorting through food every day, looking at the produce. Our teams are trying to assess, like, is this food still sellable? Is it ready to be pulled? Can we get it before it goes bad and get it into Willing Hands? Today, that whole system is like clockwork. It moves very smoothly. Our teams do a fantastic job. 20 years ago, when we were just trying to create all of this, it was not easy. It was change, and change is hard for people. And it was disrupting systems that had been in place. And it was with that commitment that Terry had and that dedication that he pushed the teams and created space for people to create systems that this was able to actually happen. And it was also something that other grocery stores would never have done. Grocery is a really tough business. We have very low margins. It's tough to be profitable, and so to say that we're going to take employee time and we're going to pay people more money to go through products and sort it so we can get it to the Willing Hands drivers was a huge thing, especially 20 years ago. So I just wanted to recognize, like, that is a really, the leadership that it requires to kind of create space for something like that is absolutely incredible, and such a testament to Terry and just the energy that he always brought. I think it was amazing to see, you know, Terry's committed to the cooperative principles, to making the Upper Valley a better place, and to, again, that doing the right thing even when it wasn't easy. So thank you, Terry. It's very cool to be up here after 20 years and see all of this really amazing partnership. Appreciate everything that you've done for Willing Hands and the Upper Valley. Thanks.
And flowers are for you, so make sure we get that to you before you leave. So I have the pleasure of introducing one of our newer staff members, Cherry Sullivan, who is going to appreciate another group of folks, many of whom are here tonight. I'd say most of you all volunteer for Willing Hands in some way. We are an organization that is supported by volunteers more than just the work in the gardens, gleaning from farms, in our warehouse. Volunteers are the heart and soul of what we do, and we only exist because of their passion, your passion and dedication. So I'm going to let Cherry appreciate you.
Thank you. And I helped make these corn stalks and realized I made them the same height as me as well. So there you go. I'm kind of hiding behind it. So I'm here to thank all of our volunteers. And the good news is I'm going to ask for a little bit of participation, which I think will help keep you warm for these last few minutes. So ride along with me here. So as many of you know, there's so many ways that you can be involved as a volunteer here at Willing Hands. You can help out with office administrative tasks, work in our water park, our gardens, gleaning, help with our grounds here, and deliveries, bits and bobs, and so much more. And so whether you're someone who offers an hour once every few months or you offer many hours every week, your willingness to be part of our mission is really testimony to the way that we all care about our community so deeply and believe in our collective impact. And some of you have played really special roles as volunteers over the many years as group leaders, sometimes offering to lead gleans or garden sessions or other volunteer groups several times a week, and sometimes when we call on you for special occasions. So if that's you, please raise your hand, because you're amazing and we love you and you're so helpful. Don't be shy. No, raise your hand. I didn't volunteer you for anything more than you already do. Don't worry, you can raise your hand. So given that we're here to celebrate 20 years together, I thought it might be fun to take a few moments to look back at the history that's sort of already been described, but to see how many of you have been along on that ride with us. So if you're willing, please raise your hand or both hands if you're extra excited. So if you're a newer volunteer, maybe in the last few years, and you're newer to us, please raise your hand. You know, maybe you've come during COVID. Yeah, woo! Great. A lot of people were looking to get outside, looking to build social connections, and looking to make a big impact in their community. And so we're so, so grateful to have you here and part of our community. How many of you were here in 2019 when we found our home here at 198? Yeah, all right, great. How many of you have volunteered since, say, like 2012 when we got our first box truck, because the amount of food we were able to bring from our donors to our recipients just increased so dramatically? Anybody? All right, we still have someone. That's great. And I think, like, just thinking about this is really important. One more, how many of you have been back here, have been volunteering since maybe like 2007, 2008, when the gleaning program really began, the garden programs really began? Anybody?
If you remember when those began, let me know.
Yeah, if you have an exact date. If you have an exact date, that'd be helpful. But, you know, I think what's so wonderful about all our volunteers is that each of you come with your own skills and your own passions and your own reasons for volunteering. And so for all of our new volunteers, we're so grateful to have you. We're really glad you're going to be on this journey with us for the next 20 years. And, of course, all of those who have been here for many, many years, you know, such deep gratitude. Your energy and your support is what keeps us going every day. You really, truly embody the spirit of what it means to be willing hands. So what I would ask is, before you leave, if you could connect with someone who you haven't met and just share a story. Share a story of what volunteering means to you, and why you are such a great supporter of our community. So thank you all for everything that you offer.
So just a couple more things. So we counted up. You'll be shocked to hear that it was Carolyn Fry who did this. We counted up every past board member that we could find record of, and if we've missed anyone, please let us know. But we have this wonderful picture, wonderful display back there with the name of everyone who served on the Willing Hands board over the years. And it came out to an even number of 60 people, which is amazing. This organization, any nonprofit, of course, but this organization in particular, wouldn't exist without the board. The board of directors, they selflessly give their time, give their leadership to make this work possible. It's such an incredibly important part of our history. It's an incredibly important part of who we are today. We talk a lot about how we're moving from a working board who's doing some of that day-to-day work to a governing board who's taking on more of a role in creating policies and making sure we're moving towards our goals. But it's really the same thing. It's really individuals who are just taking that time and lending their expertise and passion to our work. So if I want to thank you all. I want to thank everyone and those 60 people who have spent time on the Willing Hands board. If you're one of them, please raise your hand. I know we have a lot of current board members here. I know we have past board members here. And it's just a pleasure to have you as part of the organization. So thank you. Just as importantly, I want to make sure that we recognize our staff. It's a treasure to have former staff here today, as well as I think almost every one of our current staff as well. And I can just say, day to day, the staff of Willing Hands, whether it's folks that I've worked with over the years, whether the folks I see on a daily basis now, it's an incredibly rewarding and enriching experience for me personally to be part of this team. We try to not put staff first when we talk about it, because we're just one part of the team that makes Willing Hands work possible. It is the board, it is volunteers, it is our food donors, it is our supporters. There's a much bigger community, but of course the staff of this organization are essential to make it work. And it is just a pleasure to work with you all. So if you've been a staff member of Willing Hands, I want you to raise your hand and let's appreciate you. I have to say, he probably doesn't want me to say this, but Jim, you're the reason why there's dahlias here. And as a former staff person who would just bring dahlias in every year, and I would bring them home, and they would never produce any flowers. Hopefully he's happy that I stuck with it long enough to actually produce some flowers. Because it was a treasure to receive your dahlias over the years. Anyway. Lastly, before I hand it over to Joe to just give us a final toast, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the future. I was talking to Alec today at lunch. I was trying to tell him what I was doing for the program. He's like, "What about the future?" I was like, "You're right." I was going to say something about that, but it's really critical, and I think some of the other speakers have talked to this already, but I want to underline it. The sad fact is that our work is needed now as much, or if not more, than it's ever been needed. We have seen our partner organizations, the recipient organizations we serve, who are so critical and important to our work, the Haven, Listen, who are represented here with their leadership. We work closely with them where we are delivering food on a daily basis to 80 organizations every week. And the needs that they are serving in our community are sadly increased over the last couple of years fairly dramatically. Food insecurity is growing with the cost of living in our community. And this work, recovering food, reducing food waste, and then ultimately feeding people with it, it's needed more than ever. And I'm really excited to share that the board of directors has created a new 5-year strategic plan. We have a poster here with our one-page overall summary of it. And the core part of that strategic plan is really trying to do a couple things. Increase the amount of food that we are delivering to our partners, make sure we're doing that in the most equitable way possible, that we are meeting more of the needs of the community, that we are identifying whether there are community members that we're not currently serving but who have need for our food. There's a lot of other parts about it around sustainability. We're an organization committed to doing all of our work sustainably, but there's a big impact of reducing food waste on carbon emissions, and we've really committed over the last few years with our climate action plan, reducing our direct emissions, but also increasing our food recovery, as that is one of the most important things we can do as a society to reduce the amount of carbon that we are emitting. All of those things are embodied in our strategic plan and are a product of a tremendous amount of work that the board did, staff supported, but the board did working with volunteers, working with community members, really to shape what is the next phase of our organization's work. So I want to appreciate that and recognize it. The person who did the most of that work, I get to bring up next, Joe Miranda, and she will have the honor, as the vice president of our board, to do a little toast and then invite us all to have some cake. Planning committee, that's in addition to being a vice president and on the board for 8 years? Yes.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. I'm Joe, and on behalf of the board of directors, I want to just take a minute to give some thanks to you all. Thank you to the staff, the volunteers, donors, and every community partner that makes this work possible. The growth and accomplishments of Willing Hands over the past 20 years is truly impressive. I've seen it, having been humbled to be part of Willing Hands for half of its history. From my first volunteer shift 10 summers ago, out at the Cedar Circle Garden. I was just a little pipsqueak weeding, and I was immediately hooked by the simple and powerful mission of the organization, and equally fascinated by the volunteer-driven engine that delivers so many benefits for our community. So while the growth and accomplishments are really exciting and easy to celebrate, the hard truth is that our work is ever increasing due to the ever increasing need of our community. So there is still work yet to do to protect our environment and support our community through the next decade's worth of challenges. Our community continues to need us, and we continue to need each other. So please help keep the good work going. And if anybody needs some ideas, we have no shortage of ideas for how you can help us do that. And so with that, I want to say thank you, and please raise your imaginary glass. And let's cheers to the next 20 years of reducing food waste and expanding access to fresh food in the Upper Valley together. And I think now I'm supposed to say, go eat cake!